I'm going to show you how to change a fraction to a percent. These problems can range from easy to very difficult depending on the denominator. If you have a fraction with what I call an easy denominator, changing to a percent is a piece of cake. For example, if you have 100 as a denominator, then your fraction is already out of 100, and you can just take the numerator and write it with a percent sign. 5 out of 100 is 5%. 84 out of 100 is 84%. So those are really easy. There are lots of other easy denominators as well. Consider the tenths. Well, if you have tenths, that's easily converted into an equivalent fraction out of 100. For example, 10 times 10 is 100, 4 times 10 is 40, and once you have a fraction with 100 on the bottom as your denominator, then writing the percent as a piece of cake. 40 out of 100 is 40%. 20 is also a denominator that can divide into 100. So what you do is, one of the first things you do is look at a fraction, look at the denominator. Can you convert it to an equivalent fraction with 100 as the denominator? If that answer is yes, then do that. So in this example, we can multiply 20 by 5 to get 100. So all we have to do is 13 times 5, which is 65. Again, once you have the fraction out of 100, you just take the numerator and add the percent sign. Remember, all percents are out of 100. That's why we're trying to take the denominator, the fraction, and write it with a denominator out of 100. Here's another denominator of 20. Why don't you try that one on your own, using this example. Hopefully you paused the video and had a chance to try that one. 20 times 5, as we just talked about down there, is 100. So all you have to do is 5 times 5, and you have an equivalent fraction out of 100. Once you have the fraction out of 100, you can simply take the numerator and add the percent sign, and you have your percent. Some fractions are so easy, we don't hopefully have to think too much about what they are as a percent. Take 1/2, for example. What do you think half is as a percent? I'm sure a lot of you know that 1/2 is 50%. 1/2, isn't it 50 out of 100? So that's 50%. Memorize that one if you haven't already. The quarters are also easy. I like to read these as quarters, not fourths, because it reminds me of money. And here's 1/4. How much is 1/4? 25 cents, right? So 1/4 of a dollar is 25%. 2/4 is the same thing as a half, right? 2/4 is the same thing as a half, 50%. So what are 3/4? What is 3/4 as a percent? You got it, 75%. So these are some, what I call easy fractions. You should know how to convert anything with 100 or 20 or 10, or even if you have 25 or 50 in the denominator, try to convert it to an equivalent fraction out of 100, then you can easily write the percent. Not all fractions are easily converted to a percent as these. Take a look at this real-life example. On her science quiz, Jacinda got 14 questions correct out of 16. Find Jacinda's grade as a percent. To find her grade, we have to write 14/16 as a percent. This is not an easy fraction, because remember, the first thing you should try to do is look at the denominator and try to convert it to 100. In this case, 16 does not go into 100 evenly. So we can't convert it to an equivalent fraction out of 100. The second step you can try is you can try to simplify the fraction, because that will make our lives a little simpler. In this case, I can simplify. I can divide these by 2, and I would get 7/8. Okay? I still cannot convert it to hundredths. I can't write an equivalent fraction out of 100. So I go to the long method, and that is I have to divide. I'm going to divide 7 by 8. And we already know this is how we convert a fraction to a decimal. Watch what happens and how we convert that decimal then to a percent. So I'm going to divide 8 into 7. That doesn't go. So I add a decimal and a 0. Now I'm dividing 8 into 70, and that's 8 times. And I'm going to line up my decimal, and then I can forget about it. 8 times 8 is 64. Got a remainder of 6. Keep bringing down zeros until you either figure out if the decimal is going to terminate, that means it's going to end, or it's going to repeat. So let's keep going here. 8 into 60 is 7 times. 7 times 8 is 56. Remainder 4. So I'm going to drop another 0. And 8 goes into 40 exactly 5 times, because 8 times 5 is 40. Once I have a remainder of 0, I know I'm finished. This is what's called a terminating decimal. But I'm still not finished. This is a decimal. So then I need to convert it. I need a percent. So 0.875 as a percent, that process is pretty easy. All you do is take the decimal and move it 2 times to the right. We're going to talk more about how easy it is to change a decimal to a percent or a percent to a decimal tomorrow. For right now, all you need to worry about is moving the decimal 2 times, and you'll have 87.5%. So Jacinda got an 87.5 on her test. It's a B+, pretty good. So that's how you convert a harder fraction to a percent. Let's look at one more example. Make sure you're writing down all of these examples on your note sheet so you can bring them to class as you practice tomorrow. Here's the last example. After a survey, Lynn discovered that 4 out of every 11 8th graders at his school play games online. Find the percent of 8th graders that play games online. It says round to the nearest 100. So here we have 4 out of 11. And we're asked to convert that to a percent. The first thing I'm going to try is I'm going to try to make it an equivalent fraction out of 100. Can I do that? Does 11 go into 100 evenly? And that answer is no. So this is not an easy fraction. As you see it set up there, that reminds me of something else I wanted to mention, that you could solve this as a percent proportion to try to figure out this number. You could do 4 times 100 and then divide by 11. Or we can use the process I just showed you. Both will get us the answer. I also can't simplify this, so I'm going to go ahead and do 4 divided by 11. Let's see what happens here. 11 doesn't go into 4. I'm going to add my decimal, my 0, and line it up carefully. 11 goes into 40 3 times, because 3 times 11 is 33. Remainder 7. Bring down a 0. 11 goes into 76 times. 6 times 11 is 66. Remainder 4. And you might notice something here. I already divided 11 into 40 at the beginning, and it was 3. And you can probably see that if I write down 33, I'm going to get a remainder of 7 again. This is going to repeat. My decimal is going to be 0.363636. So I go ahead and put a bar. That's my decimal. Again, to convert this to a percent, all I'm going to do is move my decimal point 2 times. So my percent is 36%. Now it says round to the nearest 100. So technically this would be 363636, right? So it's 36.36%. That would be the hundredths place. For me, I'd be happy if you converted that to a whole percent. So if you put 36%, I would totally accept that as a reasonable answer to this question. So 36% of 8th graders play games online at his school. All right, bring all these notes to class tomorrow and we'll practice changing easy, medium, and difficult fractions into a percent. And I'll see you then.